Hello, welcome back to Yoga with Paige. It's good to see you here. I'm happy that you are practicing with me today. We have a lovely practice that focuses on the pelvic floor. So ladies, if you have done kegels before in your lifetime, you'll know a little bit about the feeling of activating and squeezing through the pelvic floor. It is a very mild feeling. It's not as contractually intense as, say, squeezing a bicep. It's a very mild sensation. So we really just think about lifting up from the floor, squeezing almost like you have to hold in your pee. If you haven't done a Kegel before, it's kind of about the same feeling that you would get, a very mild feeling, just not relaxing it. So as we move through these few postures today, that is what we take our awareness to every time we breathe. So on the inhale and in the exhale, we squeeze everything out. We start to lift it up a little bit. So just minor tilts in the pelvis and really actively squeezing and holding through that floor beneath us. So these help with strengthening our core. Actually, our pelvic floor, everything's connected, connects to our abdomen. So we really help gain strength in our abdominal muscles, as well as gaining strength pre-pregnancy, post-pregnancy. It also helps correct a little bit of our posture. It is connected to the spine as well. So many reasons to be taking care of our pelvic floor. And I hope you feel a little bit of opening and strengthening in that area as we move today. So whenever you're ready, you can grab your mat and we can get started. Begin today sitting in easy seat, finding the easiest, comfortablest spot for you here so we can really just draw all of our attention to our lower abdomen. So taking a moment to roll the shoulders back, come into our nice erect spine, breathing up through the crown of the head. We start to maybe close the eyes, help us go within a little bit more. Sending our breath and our awareness to the lower belly as we focus on the expansion and contraction of the muscles. Maybe we take our hands to our lower belly or one, and just noticing how our belly expands on the inhale and how it contracts as we pull the navel into the spine to expel all of the air out. And starting to feel that slight contraction of the pelvic floor as we exhale. As we draw the navel in, we can feel the pelvic floor contracting, turning up just that slight bit. That's what we're looking for today. Nothing too big. And with practice, it will become easier and you'll become more in tune to your pelvic floor, as with anything. So just taking nice, deep, even breaths, maybe to a count of 3 or 4. Letting them be even and steady. Finding big breath on the inhales and lifting up on the exhales, drawing up from the pelvic floor. Feeling that space already. 2 more big rounds of breath here. Just taking notice, just observing how this feels. Maybe it's an area we've never placed our focus on before. All the more important. And if we have the eyes closed, we can gently blink them open. Welcome the room around us, the new day, and take the feet in together, finding bound angle pose. If our hips are a little tight, if we're not too open today, our knees might be up here, legs might be very wide, and that's okay. Wherever we are, just drawing the feet together. lifting up through the crown of the head as we send the pelvis down. Big breaths here. These hip opening postures help us connect better to our pelvic floor. Breathing nice and easy, maybe pulling the chest a little bit closer to the feet as we exhale and draw the pelvis up. We try to lift it up with every exhale. Maybe closing the eyes again, taking our awareness back into the body. And we can slowly let the back round a little bit and let the head fall close to the chest. Just a nice, easy posture here. Still active in the hips, opening through the groins. Still finding our deep breaths. 2 more rounds here. Maybe setting an intention for our practice today. And gently releasing the chest up. Tucking this right leg over onto the left as we slowly make our way into tabletop pose. So finding our positioning here, spreading wide between the fingers. We want a nice foundation. We're going to tuck the toes. And on your next exhale, we're going to gently lift the knees. So press through the hands, grip through the fingers, start protracting the shoulders away as we lift the knees, engaging the abdomen, the pelvic floor. Our knees are only off the mat about 1/2 inch to 1 inch. We don't need a lot of lift here to feel the muscles strengthen and contract. Send your awareness back to the pelvic floor, tucking it in, holding it, strengthening here. Breathing deep. 5 more seconds, you can do it. 3, 2, 1. Release the knees. Untuck the toes. And instead of a traditional big cat-cow, we're going to make this movement a little smaller, a little more about the pelvis. So maybe taking a few teeny tiny little wiggles of the pelvis, shake those hips around. Feel that part of your body. That is our focus for today. And on your inhale, gently send the pelvis down a little bit towards the mat, taking your gaze up. And on the exhale, rounding, really drawing up from the pelvis, tucking in the tailbone as we round and drop the head. Big squeeze here. Inhale to drop it down, nice and small, sending the hips up. And exhale, really taking our care to move slowly, contract these muscles. About 2 more rounds of these. Moving slowly and carefully, intentionally. Beautiful. 1 more round. And releasing back to tabletop. To walk the hands forward, tuck the toes, and make your way into downward facing dog. Lifting the hips, pedaling out the feet, especially if this is our first downward facing dog of the day. Waking up through the backs of the legs, sending the crown of the head energetically in between the hands and the hips up high. Once we've warmed up a little bit, we find our big toes together and send the heels down. This is a nice stretch for the pelvic floor as we open up through the hips and the backs of the legs. Holding here, 1 breath. Inhale. And exhale, squeeze the navel into the spine. We can find a slight contraction here in the pelvic floor. See if you can notice it with this next breath. Inhale to relax and exhale to squeeze. And gazing at the hands, we'll gently make our way to the top of the mat. Plant the feet hip width apart. As we inhale, bend the knees, take the hands above the head, chair pose. So sinking into the hips here, rolling the shoulders back. Slightly tuck the pelvis in. So don't send the hips up like this. We want to slightly tuck the pelvis in, contract, and hold. Nice steady breaths. Find your focus point. Active in the quadriceps and the glutes. One more big round of breath. Fill the belly and contract. On the next inhale, straighten the legs, release the arms by the sides, mountain pose. Maybe take a little wiggle here before we find our mountain pose, reaching down through the feet and up through the crown of the head. Nice and contracted. Everything is active here. We're not just resting. We are active, spreading the shoulders back, opening up through the chest, slightly tucking in the pelvis. One big breath. And exhale. Expel it all out. On this next inhale, come back into our chair pose. And exhale to sink a little bit deeper, still active, remembering to tuck the pelvis in slightly. Holding here for a few breaths. You're nice and strong. We got this. We're building up strength. Full belly breaths. One more round of breath here. See if we can sink a little bit deeper into the heels. And on your next exhale, gently rain the fingertips down, forward fold. Grounding through the right foot, picking up this left, stepping it back behind, coming into a 90-90 lunge. So we want our knee over our ankle and the other hip over our knee. 90-90 lunge here. Hands can come to the hips. They can be up here if we need more balance. We're going to tuck the left toe and raise up. So we want to knit the thighs together. We're nice and strong and stable. Then lift up and drop the knee back down. Just a few of these, about 5. Nice and strong, slightly tuck the pelvis. Here we go, last one. And release. Staying here for a moment, just noticing how we feel. Can we take our energy here? What are we feeling? What are we noticing? And on your next exhale, gently take that right knee back to the left. We can switch sides. Finding our position first, tucking that back right foot. Feeling strong and empowered. We're going to lift up the hips and tap the knee down 5 times. Here we go. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Releasing the hands, coming back up onto the feet. We will now come into a frog pose, variation, or malasana, deep yogi squat, whichever one is more accessible to you today. We can be up on the balls of the feet, opening, sending the knees out to the sides, contracting the pelvic floor. Or if we are a little bit more open, if this is in our practice, we can come into malasana, flat feet. Still same thing, opening through the hips, so lifting the chest, sending the pelvis down towards the mat, but pulling it up in your body, trying to reach it all the way up through the chest. Thinking of pulling it up, nice and strong here, contracted. A few breaths, whatever position we're in. finding tension anywhere in the shoulders or in the forehead that we can release. Beautiful. One more deep breath. Big inhale, fill the belly. Exhale, squeeze, lift up. And we can release, taking the fingertips to the mat, finding our way down onto the knees. We're going to come on the side body, so laying down on the left side, placing this forearm underneath our shoulder. Our knees are bent, the feet are together. So taking the knee up, we use our fingers and our forearm to support us here, squeeze, and back down. Lift the knee up, squeeze here, feel how much space we can create in our lower body here as we send the knee up. We want to make sure that this left leg is still on the mat. We can always move our positioning. Maybe we straighten the legs a little bit more, whatever feels good and easy to you. About 10 of these in total. Really squeezing the glutes at the top so as to contract the pelvic floor. And then we can release. Gently come onto the back to switch sides. Coming onto the right forearm. Balance everything out. Go. Find our position. And then lift the knee. Noticing how open this side feels compared to the other. And just breathing. This little clamshell pose. Nice and gentle. Just finding what feels good here. Find what feels good while we take our awareness down, 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 but lift up, up. Beautiful. When we've done our around 10, once we feel even, we can gently close the legs, come onto the back, scoot to the middle of the mat, keeping the feet hip-width apart, preparing for bridge pose. So you can always put a block in between our knees to help us keep the thighs knitted together. That's going to help us engage our glutes and in turn engage our pelvic floor. So hands by the sides. One big inhale here, noticing the lower back as we press it into the mat. And then exhale, send the hips up. This doesn't need to be as far as our normal bridge pose. We really want to just focus on how we are contracting and strengthening right here. So if this is as far as we want to go or can go, this is perfectly perfect. We can send the hips up a little bit higher as long as we're squeezing, thinking of pulling the pelvic floor up to the chest. Active in the glutes and the quadriceps, holding for a few breaths. We can always interlace the hands underneath the hips and draw the shoulder blades underneath to lift the hips higher. Still squeezing through the pelvic floor. One more big breath. And then we can gently release the back slowly down each vertebra towards the floor. Still engaged. And release. Take a moment to rest here. We're going to do that one more time. Beautiful. Find our position. One big inhale. And exhale, lift the hips, press through the feet and the hands, squeezing the knees together. Beautiful, sending the hips up and up. Deep breaths. One more breath here. Squeeze the pelvis. And exhale, slowly release down. You can tuck the knees into the chest. Always a nice counterbalance after bridge pose. Maybe finding a little rock for the lower back. Be prepared to come into happy baby. So whenever you feel ready, we can send the feet up towards the sky, keeping a beautiful bend in the knees, opening the hips wide. And we can grab onto the outside edges of the feet if that's accessible, or maybe the shins. Just opening the hips, pressing the lower back down into the mat. Opening through the pelvis here. And our pelvis is tilted a little bit more back. So we should really be able to feel the contraction. Send your awareness there once again. If your mind has wandered, it's okay. Always coming back to the breath. Two deep, full breaths here. Then we're going to release the hands. Take the knees together a little bit above the hips, keeping the arms by the sides. We're going to open almost like into happy baby, but just using the legs. Inhale, squeeze them back up. And exhale to let them open, but still very active in the pelvic floor. I feel like I've said that 300 times now, but very active here. Squeezing the lower abdomen. Just a few gentle rounds of these. We'll take 2 more. And then we'll make our way into a twist. So releasing the left leg down on the mat. Crossing that right knee gently over the leg and gazing over the right shoulder. We feel a beautiful wringing out of the lower back, the spine, counterbalancing all of these hip openers. Letting your breath return back to normal. Not forcing anything. Just gently releasing. And on your next exhale, gently roll back onto the back to switch sides. Guiding the left knee over. Maybe finding a little smile here as we start to come to a close of our practice today. Just thank yourself for taking this time, for coming on the mat, taking care of yourself, your future self, your past self, and your current self. Gently, whenever you're ready, coming back onto the back. And we can make our way up to a sitting position for one last little pranayama exercise to end this practice. This will give a little bit of fire, a little bit of heat to our day. And now that our pelvic floor has been activated and we're a little bit warmed up, this should be a little bit easier to do. So sitting in easy seat, taking the hands again to the belly, we're going to do a little fire breath. So it'll be a big inhale, and then on the exhales, we shoot it out. So we really contract the muscles and expel all the air out that way. So big inhale, fill the belly with breath, and then exhale. Maybe we take our gaze down to look at it. Maybe we close the eyes to feel it more. Big breath in, fill the belly. Maybe take the hands and exhale. Shoot it out. Really feeling each contraction in the lower abdomen and the pelvic floor, of course. 2 more like that. It's okay if you feel silly, I'm doing it right here with you. 1 big last one, make it nice, make it full. And exhale. Thank you for joining me in this yoga practice, focusing on the pelvic floor, finding strength and finding space. I hope you enjoyed this class and we were able to connect a little bit more to that area of our body, connect body and mind together, the union of yoga, as it is a practice as much about the mind, if not more, than the body. Thank you for practicing with me again. I look forward to seeing you on the mat very soon. Namaste, my friend.